Arteta out. Arteta out. You must be kidding me. Yeah? Where was Arsenal Football Club before this manager came to this club? In the later years of Wenger, in the seasons in between when you had Unai Emery, where was Arsenal Football Club? We were barely competing for the Premier League. And then Arteta comes in, changes the culture of the club, brings the fans on board, and starts making Arsenal Football Club competitive again. Wins a trophy, wins the FA Cup, and then goes on to bring in players to transform this squad. You know, we used to have a defense of clowns. Remember Mustafi? Remember Senderos? Remember Joru? Remember all those, Squillaci and all that? We don't have none of that anymore. We have a serious defense, brother. We have a defense, with a guy like Saliba, a guy who has played every single minute for Arsenal this season. We have Gabriel. We have Ben White. We have Tomiyasu. We have a proper defense. And our midfield is a proper midfield right now. We got Rice, Odegaard, Partey, Jorginho. Our forward line is just, blowing it. We've got Saka, we've got Martinelli, we've got Trossard, we've got Harvest. What are you talking about? Arteta out. He has brought this team together, and now Arsenal are actually competing. They are competing against the juggernaut, that machine that is City. Before that, we were nowhere. And so, look, some of you are saying, why hasn't he won a trophy this season? Yeah, that's for real. That's true. We should be winning at least the cups. And I'm sure this is one of the things I'm going to raise in this video, that Arteta should actually challenge, not just in the Premier League, but try to aim at winning the FA Cup, the League Cup, and even the Champions League. Arteta must learn and improve for Arsenal to go to the next level. And I can see he's a manager who learns very fast, because after the season ended and he was on his press conference, he said that he knows the players gave their best, and the managing staff as well and himself, they gave their best. They fell 2 points short, and he knows that now he needs to go to that extra level. And he said his immediate task when they come together for preseason is to make sure that he takes each player to that next level. That's a good manager right there. He's not saying his first move is to get players in, but he's going to do lots of that. But he's saying he wants to take Saka to the next level. He wants to take Rice to the next level. He wants to take Odegaard to the next level as a baller in that midfield. And he wants to get even the defense to the next level, the keeper to the next level. That means this team collectively is going to level up. So imagine what you're going to have next season. If they've achieved 89 points this season, the highest number of wins in a Premier League season, higher than even the Invincibles did. So they had a very good record. We had a good season, and they can be proud of it. He also said that when he was asked, do you think it's going to take 100 points for a team to win the Premier League going forward? He said, I was at City when City won it with 100 points. I know what that takes. And he said that's why he's sort of trying to back himself up. Said, that's why I'm the right person for this job, because I've been at the enemy camp. I know what they do to get 100 points a season, and I can replicate it here. And he said, we're actually on the right track towards that. Looking at the team right now, we are hitting 89 points. The process is still going on. The team is growing in strength and in stature. The players are still young. They're going to get better. Some of the players here, most of the players have not even picked. Players in their 22, 23, 24, they pick around 26 to 28 thereabouts. So this team, it's actually astonishing. It's scary how good this team is going to become in the next few years, beginning next season. So the first thing this manager needs to do is to know how to utilize his players and to trust his players more. This season, we saw a trend where he was utilizing some players too much and other players scarcely ever using them. Like Saka played so many games on the right wing. Even when Saka was having a bad game, he was barely getting dropped. And you're thinking, why do you have Nelson on a new contract of 100 grand? You're not using him to even give Saka a break. Same with players like Vieira. Where do you get this player for 34 million, 35 million it was, and you don't even utilize him? He's there on the bench, although he was injured some part of it. Players like Emil Smith-Rowe, he was fit for a good part of the season, but he was just being given cameos, late come-ons. Ketia, you don't even talk about him because he barely got a game this season, and yet he was fit for most of the season. And so you saw a manager who only believed and trusted in a core group of players, and put too much pressure on them, and making them play every single game, playing the Premier League, they're playing the Champions League, they're playing the League Cup, in the FA Cup. And so players, naturally, they get tired. And that's what happened. Some players got tired. Some games we were fatigued. The draws, the losses that we are not meant to get. It was just players being naturally tired from lack of squad rotation. Look at City. Look at Liverpool. Klopp did not have a big squad, but he could tap players from his academy to beef up his squad and make sure that his main players are kept fresh for the main games. A City, of course, they have a huge squad, bigger than Arsenal, and they were able to sort of give their players a rest, get fresh legs in, and they were more competitive in the long run than us. But still, what Arteta needs to do and to learn fast is to get players whom he trusts. If he doesn't trust the likes of Nketiah, the likes of Nelson, the likes of Vieira, the likes of Smith Rowe, then he should just sell them. Sell them and get players in who he actually trusts. Who players who can substitute Odegaard, who can substitute Saka, even in midfield. We need players who can play that left number 8. So he needs to get players in whom he trusts so that he can do squad rotation, so that he can have fresh legs and we can go longer in these cup competitions, as well as be strong towards the home stretch of the Premier League. Secondly, Arteta needs to learn to trust players from his academy. This is one manager who has not actually given our players from the academy, from Hale End, a chance, a pathway into the first team. You saw Raul Walters, the right back. He's refused to sign a senior contract with Arsenal and he wants to leave. So we're going to have a hemorrhage from our academy because young players sense it. They know it. They know it when they don't have a pathway to the first team because they think, I've been on the bench so many times. This manager does not even give me a cameo, does not even bring me on in the closing minutes of a match. When is he ever going to bring me on? So players nowadays, they're quite impatient. You saw what happened at Man City. Sancho moved out. He couldn't get game time. Now he became a world beater when he went to Borussia Dortmund. And the same thing with Arsenal. If we don't keep our players, if we don't get that channel from the academy to the first team, then we're going to lose a lot of good players who could have become big talent. Players like Nwaneri. What was the thing about giving Ethan Nwaneri a debut in the Premier League at 15 years and I don't know how many days old? And since then, you've not actually played him. You should have given him a straight pathway to the first team where he comes on in the closing minutes of matches that we are winning. You give him an appearance in the FA Cup, in the League Cup. What does that do? It gives other players who are behind him in the academy, that motivation that, if I work hard enough, it doesn't matter whether I'm young, this manager gives young players a chance. Now we have a player in the academy, Chichido Obi Martin. He's just knocking them in like for fun. He's hitting hat-tricks, double hat-tricks in games. These are special players, special talent. Get him in and around the first team in training and give him a cameo appearance, give him a game or two and try to, show that you actually recognize talent above everything else. Players like Mario, Kosi Duberry, players like Lewis Skitty, these are players who have shown consistently in the under 21s and under 18s, under 17s that they can actually deliver the goods. So give them a pathway to the first team. It can be that Unai Emery was able to identify Saka and Smith Rowe and give them debuts, and now you're utilizing them as your young players. And yet you yourself, Arteta, you've not brought your own players from the academy to the first team. So you need to trust your players more. Look at what Liverpool are doing with their academy players. Conor Bradley, Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Jarrell Quansah. You see how big he has been for them this season at centre-back. And of course, Alexander-Arnold is a product of the academy as well. You see how many millions these players are going to save Liverpool in the market. And these are players who come through with the DNA of the club. They know how the club plays football. It's like Barcelona. They bring a lot of players through from the academy. And these players, they know exactly what the club stands for. So Arsenal Football Club, we need to make sure that our Hale End Academy is the conveyor belt to our first team. At least every time we field our first 11, we should see a player that we've seen grow from the ranks. Like Saka, such a delight to have him in the team. But we need more Sakas. We need more Saka-like players who have come through the ranks from the academy into the first team. These are players who connect better with the fans because the fans can see themselves in the player. Even City, they don't give their players too much of an opportunity, but surprisingly, actually, they've given more players a chance who have come from the academy this season than Arteta has done for Arsenal. We've got players like Lewis, Rico Lewis, Phil Foden, of course, is a product of the academy. And I'm sure you'll agree with me that the main reason why City have won the Premier League this season is actually this player called Phil Foden. He's been absolutely phenomenal. There's kind of goals he's hitting nowadays. He cuts in with his left foot from anywhere, he'll shoot and he'll score from there. He's been absolutely phenomenal this season. And that's the kind of left foot that I thought that Saka had on him, but he doesn't seem to use it as much as he's supposed to do. That left foot, that the kind of left foot I'm seeing in Phil Foden right now, that cutting from the right wing, coming in on his left foot and unleashing that unstoppable shot into the top right corner. Similar to what Ian Robben used to do at Chelsea. You know exactly what he's going to do. You know exactly that he's going to come in and shoot on his left foot, but you can't stop him because he executes it so quickly, and the pace of the ball and the curve of the ball, the keeper has absolutely no opportunity. And he has scored so many of such goals this season. Phil Foden, fabulous, fabulous season he's had, and he's going to be a great asset for England. City have also produced the likes of Cole Palmer and Romeo Lavia. As of course, we mentioned Sancho earlier, who have gone on to leave the club and go play for other clubs, and they've been absolutely phenomenal. So you've got to big up your academy players, even if they don't end up playing for the first team. Some will say, yeah, I mean, Arsenal is now competing for the Premier League, so you don't expect them to give youngsters a chance as much as a team that is lower in the league, and that is true. That's a genuine argument right there. But at least give them a chance enough for them to get exposure, so that if you want to sell them, then you can sell them and make a good fee, like the amount of money that Liverpool and City have made selling the academy players is up there. You can't compare it with what Arsenal have made. So Arteta, learn to utilize your academy players more and try to incorporate them into the first team, so that you can be more competitive and you can save money off in the transfer market. For instance, this summer you're gonna go spend big money trying to get a forward, maybe Sesko or others, but maybe some of these players could have actually been developed by growing our homegrown players from our academy. Lastly, Arteta needs to learn how to go out in the transfer market and get the right kind of profile of a player that we need for Arsenal. And Arteta needs to be sharper in the transfer market. Now, that is not saying that he has not been good. Actually, this manager has had a very good record in the transfer market. From the players he has brought in, the ones who are competing right now, from the likes of White, mention all of them to the front line. He has been very good, very shrewd in the transfer market. Of course, aided by Edu, who they work hand in hand with. Like the signings of last summer, Harvez, Rice, and Julian Timber, you can see that all of them are actually good signings. Although initially, myself and other Arsenal fans, lots of other Arsenal fans, were not convinced by Harvez, because we thought, how do you get a Chelsea flop and think that you can perform better just by changing into a red and white? But he has happily proved us wrong. He has scored goals. He scored 13 goals and created about 7 chances. So total of 20 goal involvement in his first season in the Premier League in a new club is absolutely up there with the best who have won the Arsenal shirt. Up there with the likes of Sanchez and the likes of Santi Cazorla. So he's been really, really good for Arsenal this season. But I say that if he has been that good as a centre forward, as a number 9, why is Arsenal then again in the market looking for a forward player? Why are we being linked to the likes of Benjamin Sesko? It's because, if you get that one chance and you have Havertz shooting it, I don't think most Arsenal fans will back him to score when it's a crunch match. When it's a clutch moment where we need a player just to put the ball in the net. I don't think you'll back Havertz to score that goal. He's not that clinical. That's what I'm trying to say. He's good at link-up play. He's good at hold-up play. He's good at bringing other players into the game. He's good at aerial heading the ball. He's good at in his headers, but he's not very clinical. When he's one-on-one with the keeper, you'll see him get some lame shot in. You won't see him having that that spark in front of goal. This is Arsenal, man. This is a club that is used to having 30-goal season strikers. You're talking about Thierry Henry. You're talking about Van Persie. You're talking about Ian Wright. These are the kind of players that Arsenal is used to having as a striker. And now we are a club that doesn't have a player who can even get 20 goals a season. Saka, who's a winger, is actually our top scorer this season. And he takes most of our penalties. And he's got 16 goals. Of course, we know that Trossard has been immense. He's a sharpshooter. Of course, and Havertz has done well. But do we have one forward player who can get us 25 to 30 goals a season? And that's what Arsenal need. That's why Arsenal are in the market for such a player. Now, this is where I can say Arteta might have done better, because back in the January 2022, he was trying to get Vlahovic from Fiorentina. He ended up going to Juventus, and then he was in the market again for Alexander Isak, who was then playing at Real Sociedad with Odegaard. Of course, we know that didn't go through, because I think the money that they were asking for, around 60 million. At that time, Arsenal thought it was too much money. And we went without a striker, and that cost us a place in the Champions League that season. So we thought that summer he was going to address that position. He went out to City, he got Gabriel Jesus, and Jesus is a good player. He's a good player, but he's not a clinical striker. We've seen how he started well for Arsenal, and yet he faded away and is injury prone and is not that clinical in front of goal. So coming to last summer, I thought that Arteta was going to address the attacking position as a matter of urgency, trying to get a proper striker in, a guy who can actually, bang in the goals. But it looks like he decided to give Jesus that second season chance. And that was the mistake that maybe could have won us the Premier League this season if he had gone out and gotten a proper goal scorer. I know most of the money went into strengthening our midfield. We got in Rice. We got in, of course, Havertz, who can play in that mid, attacking mid or in an attack. But this summer, Arteta, don't you go without addressing this forward line for position. We need to get a proper gunman, a 25 to 30 goal a season striker. Someone like Osimhen, someone like Okeres, such players. Even Alexander Isaac, if he's available from Newcastle, pull any stops to get such top players to come to Arsenal so that we have a front line that is feared again, so that we have a front line that can get the best out of our wingers. I saw how Martinelli played on that right wing, replacing Saka on the final game of the season, and he was absolutely phenomenal. He was doing some brilliant running, he was crossing quicker, and I think he played very well. So it has shown that our wingers can interchange, get Saka going to the left, Martinelli going to the right sometimes, and you can even get other players to come in who can sort of give these two players a rest. But by all means, you need to go into the summer, clean up any players you think are not fit enough to play for Arsenal Football Club, who you don't trust to give big games to. You don't trust to even give your other players, your core players, a break. Sell players like Nketiah, Nelson, sell, Jesus, sell, Vieira, sell, Smith Rowe, we love him. But if you're not using him, by all means, sell him. He's an academy race player, so he's going to give you a lot of money, just pure profit. And then go out there and get players who can actually play in the first team, who can actually compete with players who are in the first team. That will bring the best out of the players who are already in the core team. So let's have a really good summer. Let's go do our business early. By end of maybe June, we are done with our business, so we can have a proper preseason and we can go again next season. And Arteta is the right man for this job. Let's back him up. Let the crankers loosen their passes. Give this guy money to spend in the summer. Bring in the right kind of players. We need a striker up front. We need that left-sided midfielder, number 8. And I'm happy that they have been talking to the likes of Bruno Guimaraes from Newcastle. It's a proper good player, Bruno. We had him in our radar a few months ago when he was still at Lyon, and we thought he was coming to Arsenal, but he went to Newcastle. And now he's a proven Premier League performer, a player that has got a bit of an edge about him. Could compare him to Xhaka, very similar to Xhaka in terms of being temperamental and prone to that red card. But he's a player who can thrive very well next to Rice. He can allow Rice to play that 6, and he can be there supporting Odegaard in that sort of attacking 8 position. He can also defend when you need him to defend and allow Rice to bomb forward. So I think it's the perfect profile for Arsenal. So those two will make our summer really good. And if you could go on and get a proper marquee player, remember the time we got Sanchez and how that lifted our fan base. A player who is just comes in as a world beater. I know such a player would be like if you go to Real Madrid, now that Mbappe is coming in, there will be casualties. Someone like Rodrigo, fantastic player. And he's the one who actually took them to the Champions League final with his goals against Man City. He's an impact player. He's a player who can score from nothing. If you get such a player to come to Arsenal, that will be like cherry on top of the cake. You've got a top man up front like Sesko or Victor Osimhen or Gyökeres. You've got Bruno Guimaraes, and then you add on top Rodrigo. Goodness me, that Brazilian connection is gonna be too much. It's gonna be too much. It's gonna be a fearsome front line. And in that case, now we can compete on all fronts. We can be in the Champions League. We can win the FA Cup. We can go very far, and we can also compete in the Premier League. So that looks like a good strategy. I know Arteta is pushing for this. I know Edu is burning the midnight candle to make sure that they take this squad a level up and compete in a big way with Man City next season. This season we came very close. Actually, that game against Aston Villa, the home game where we lost 2-0, late in the match, they scored in the 80th minute upwards. We should have won that game. If we had won that game and won our remaining games, we could have won the Premier League. It just came to such small margins. In fact, if Son had scored the goal on the Tuesday night, before the final game of the season, again, we still had an opportunity right there to the last day of the season for us to win the Premier League. So it's been fine margins. Arteta's done a good job. Let's back him up. Let the management back this manager up. Let's go to the summer. Let's freshen up. Let's come back stronger next season. Ale, you Gunners. Thank you all. If you're watching and you've not subscribed, please subscribe so that we can bring you more of this content. And please like this video if you've gotten value out of it. And let's keep supporting our club. See you later. Bye-bye.